You are listening to True News. I am Dr. David Berman. You can catch True News at truenews.com. If you want the truth, this is the place to come to. Joining me today is Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. That's his organization that he started. He's been seen many times on Fox News Channel and other popular programs. This is a man I respect. He stands against the establishment. He's willing to speak out and take the heat for it. Much like Rick Wiles, of course, who takes on the establishment, and myself as well. We take it on because we need to speak the truth. Reverend Jesse, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Berman, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. I want to talk to you today about some things, particularly what the white liberal establishment does to black conservatives. Because, clearly we see there's a different standard set for if you happen to be a conservative and have black skin, apparently the white liberal establishment doesn't seem to like you too much. What do you have to say about that?
You're absolutely right. And what they want to do, the white liberal establishment want to continue to give the impression that all black people think alike, and that all blacks are Democrats, and that they believe like Jackson and Sharpton and others does. And once they find out that people such as myself are conservatives, they try to block us out. Whenever there's a situation, so-called race situation, they would go to the liberal Democrats instead of getting the point of view of black Americans. They discriminate, black American conservatives, they discriminate against us. And I'm not surprised, because for the last 50 years or so, they have used black Americans for their own personal gain. And if blacks start to come to the forefront and say, hey, we don't agree with this is wrong, then the liberal blacks and whites will go out of business, and they don't want that to happen.
So do you think that white liberals are just basically using the black community just for power? Is that what you're thinking, because they want blacks to be in poverty?
Absolutely. They want black Americans brainwashed, dumbed down, and demoralized. They want black folks relying on the government. And so whenever there are issues that they want to promote, whether it's abortion or same-sex marriage or whatever, they say, hey, this is discrimination, just like you discriminated against the blacks. This is a civil rights issue. We have the right, and then because most blacks don't understand what is happening to them or how they're being used, they would come in and validate the liberals by saying, yeah, we support this. This is discrimination. And so that's why they're working hard to keep blacks down and out for their own personal gain.
So tell me, how would they get away with playing the race card against black conservatives? I mean, they play the race card clearly against white conservatives, but how do they get away with this? They're playing the race card against a black conservative such as yourself. Well,
because, first of all, they do it because most black people, not all, but most, believe that black conservatives are sellouts, they're Uncle Toms. They'll sold their souls over to the Republican Party or to the white establishment. And so when liberal whites criticize or discriminate against black conservatives, they're not going to get, they won't be attacked by most blacks, because most blacks will agree with them. But if they discriminated against black liberal Democrats, it would be a different story. But we'll hate it. As black conservatives, we're hated by most black people, just like they hate white Americans. And because they resent and hate white Americans, they think that we are one of them.
So this, it's quite clear, though, that as we think about black conservatives and some of the great minds, we've got some of the, like Thomas Sowell, some of the things he writes, and it's almost like this sort of elitist, well, it's not almost, I think it is. It's this elitist mentality.
Yes.
And I guess they're saying to Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, hey, you're not quite as smart as we are, and you need to get in line and come into line with the establishment and get with it, because you're upsetting the apple cart. Now, are you not a threat to them?
We are a threat to them, without a doubt. We are threats in that we can influence other black folks, get them to realize or help them to realize that they need to be in control of their own lives. We help them to realize that the issue is not about race, it's about morals, it's about what is right, good versus evil. It shows other black people that they do not have to rely on the government, but they can work and do for themselves and treat people the way they would like to be treated, and that there's nothing that can hold them back in life in this country. And so we're a major threat to them, and that's why they try to shut us down and discriminate against us.
Yes, for sure. And I think clearly there's this sort of, I think it's an incredibly insulting attitude of white liberals. It's this attitude, well, those little black people, they need to be taken care of by us.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're talking as though, we've been told for so many years, we shouldn't see color. And Reverend Jesse, I mean, I'm a pastor. I minister to everybody. I don't care what color you are. It doesn't make no difference to me. I just don't care. I care about the content of character and people.
Right.
And this idea that, black people need to be taken care of and can't quite make it on their own. And so us white liberals are going to make sure that you guys are taken care of. It's incredibly insulting.
I've also said for the last 23 years or so that white liberals, and especially the Democratic Party, do not respect black Americans. They do not believe that they are capable of thinking and doing for themselves. That's why they offer affirmative action based on color. They offer welfare programs. They offer free houses and food stamps and things like that, because they do not think that blacks are able to do for themselves. And to me, that's the worst kind of racial discrimination that you can run into. But yet most black people don't see it as racial discrimination because the government is taking care of them, and they have lost that sense of moral character, and they are addicted to someone else taking care of them. But you're absolutely right. Liberals, both black and whites, but especially white liberals, do not think that black people are mentally, emotionally, and physically able or capable of taking care of themselves.
And this idea of the white, particularly the Democratic liberal establishment, to me it seems it's you trade one slavery for another. Now you're a slave to the government. You're a slave to food stamps. You're a slave to this idea that And what about the father? I know. So I look at your website, your sort of mission statement, little statement there says building the family by rebuilding the man. And if we have an absolute destruction, and I think purposely, by the white liberal establishment of the black family in the inner city, an absolute destruction of it, and destroying the role of the man in the home by somehow making government daddy instead of the man in the home.
The most hated group of people in America today by white liberals are men, period.
Men.
Black men or white men.
Yeah.
And that's and the reason for that is because of who we as men represent.
Right.
There's a spiritual order. There's a spiritual order to life, whether we like it or not, accept it or not, believe it or not, or admit it or not. And that order is God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children.
Amen.
And the man represents Christ in his home.
That's
He's
right.
the spiritual head of his wife and children. And evil understands that.
Yep.
And that's why evil works through these liberals to get them to go after the man first. And if they can degrade him and turn him away from his family or his family away from him, that man, that father, that husband, then they can take over the women and children and do whatever they want with them. And I saw that happen to the black family some 50 to 60 years ago. They came in, they attacked the black man. Mm-hmm. They told the woman she didn't need a man, that the government would take care of her, and the men don't have a right to be over them. And the woman fell for it. The government became the daddy. The corrupt black so-called leadership became the head of the people. And it's been downhill ever since. If you want to destroy a nation, if you want to destroy a family, you've got to destroy that man first. Otherwise, it cannot happen.
Well, brother, what you're saying is something I've been, it's been a cry of my heart for years and years and years. And I've taken on the establishment, the feminist establishment, this idea that, basically they just reject the Word of God. They reject the natural order of things. And as you said, a man is the head of the home. And this, we're raising generations of both black and white, and of course Hispanic as well, young men that don't understand their role as God-given leaders and protectors and providers for their family. And so, you take these young men, you kind of just put them out there, say, basically you have no purpose in life.
Young men and young women do not understand the role of man anymore.
That's right.
Because they have not been raised by their fathers. They have not had that example there. And then when they go out into the world, they go into the government public schools, and they are being taught, too, how bad the man is. He's a rapist. He's a whatever. And so they hate men even more so,
right,
because they don't have that perfect example in their homes by way of their fathers. And even if they have the fathers there, because in some cases the fathers are there, his family has still been turned away from him. They don't respect their fathers.
Right.
They don't love their fathers, and the fathers are not leading the way. It still set the children up to fail. And when they go into the world, which is of evil, it takes over their hearts and minds and destroys them.
Indeed, this is the devil's plan, isn't it? The devil's plan is he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And when the thing that Satan hates the most is the order of God. And as you know, brother, the marriage represents the relationship of Christ and the church. And so as you destroy the head of the home, then you leave the woman uncovered and for just the ravages of Satan's plan to come against her and the children. This idea of feminism, wasn't where I was going to go, but let's just go there for a moment, because I think one of the most tragic, unbelievably tragic things that we see before us is the slaughter. Just the outright slaughter of children in this country. And since we're talking about the black population, there has been a slaughter of black children, black babies through abortion. It's an absolute, it's a Holocaust. And the white liberal establishment is supporting the destruction of black babies. And they're supposed to be the ones that are out for the black person. What is going on here?
Ever since they have allowed the feminist movement to take over in America, all hell has broken loose.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I was telling my congregations or some friends of mine that it's never going to get better in this country. It's not going to get better until we restore the man. You can give all the money, you can kill all the babies, you can bring in same-sex marriage, you can put women in high positions, but it's not going to make life better. Nothing's going to get better until we return that family back to its natural order of life, its natural state. In the black community today, 70% of Planned Parenthood abortion mills are located in the inner cities around the country. Every day, over 1,600 black babies are being aborted every day.
And so why is this?
Because the fathers are not there to protect their children from evil.
Yes,
and the women feel helpless in those situations. They don't know what to do, and it's easy to convince them that, it's not a child, it's not this, you're not going to feel anything, because the fathers are not there to stop it. And the feminist movement took over and made women feel, caused them to feel that it's okay to even kill their own children inside the womb.
This is it's barbaric. And here's the thing, too. What you would think, brother, that after years and years of absolute destruction and the destroying and ripping apart of the inner city, the families absolutely destroyed, and the economic situation for young black men, and in fact most black people, is not what it should be compared to white people. Well, explain to me how this can be that the black community continues to elect the same idiots
Right.
that are leaving. Like, look at Chicago. So, I mean, there's got to be a spiritual stronghold that is happening in this country. I think we're, in some extent, and I'm saying all of us, I'm not saying black people, I'm saying white people, black people, whatever, Americans are under the judgment of God. I really believe it. I mean, we are becoming, we're going to become a third world country eventually if we continue to go down the road that we're going.
Well, the reason they're able to maintain that grip on black people, once again, the fathers are not in charge, so, and the mothers are subject to it. But black Americans, not all, but most resent white people. They're very angry, and they're racially discriminated against white people. And who caused them to do that also control them, and that is the so-called civil rights leaders, Congressional Black Caucus, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Louis Farrakhan, and most of the black preachers are racist. And they have, over the years, encouraged black people to hate white folks. And whomever caused you to hate or to become angry, they also control you.
Yeah, they do.
And so the reason that they're able to stay in office for so long because they have caused black people to become angry, and so whenever they want more power, they just throw out the word racism, and most blacks are going to follow like sheep. They're just going to continue to vote for them. Yeah. They're going to support these people because they're controlled by them.
Do you think it also has gotten to the point where there's an unwillingness to be personally responsible for behavior, and so it's convenient. It's convenient when your so-called leaders say, "Oh, it's just the racism that's causing your problems," and so there's many people in your city. I don't care what race you are. That are there because they're stuck because of a number of reasons, or maybe some things are not their own fault. But there are many in the inner city and in other places that are in difficulties because of their own irresponsible behavior. And so when someone yells, "Oh, it's racism," or "It's this," or "It's that," or "It's the conservatives," or "It's Jesse Lee Peterson's fault," or "It's Dr. David Berman's fault," it's easier to just say, "Oh, yeah, it must be their fault."
The one thing that black Americans, most black people hate more than anything else. They hate this more than they hate sin. And that's for anyone to tell them that they are wrong and that they need to be responsible for themselves. They hate those two words more than anything else. And their egos, due to hatred and separation from God, is out of control to the point that it hates any kind of truth at all.
Wow.
They've been spoiled. They've been told that it's not them, but it's someone else. It's racism. It's a white man. And so anyone who comes along to say, "No, it's you," you've turned over your life to evil people. You have hatred in your own hearts. And if you don't take responsibility, you're not going to get better. Rather than admitting that, they'd rather kill you before they admit that they are wrong. It is so deep that I can hardly find the words to describe it.
Yes. Can you do me a favor and just comment for a moment? I know Al Sharpton is not your favorite person in the world, but how does this guy get away with the term Reverend Al when he calls himself a reverend? He's pro-gay, pro-abortion. He's a hate monger. He stirs up strife and disunity. He causes. He's got wicked imaginations and he has. I mean, we're talking about Proverbs, the seventh thing God hates. It's unbelievable the way this guy behaves towards people, and he calls himself the Reverend. I mean, how does he get away with this?
Well, it's the same way Barack Obama does. Obama has the same nature as Al Sharpton. That's why they work together. But in the black community, most black people have been taught to respect the man of God. And so if a man says that he's been called by God to be a preacher, never mind that he's wrong. You can't correct him. If you do, God is going to get you. And so a lot of black people are afraid, first of all, to correct or disagree with Al Sharpton. And then the other thing is that they know they identify with him. They feel the same way that Al Sharpton feels, and that's why they go along with it. Even if he wears the title Reverend, the fact that he promotes hatred toward white people is all that the people need. And so whatever else he's doing, they say, "Oh, just forgive him. We all sin. No problem. Yeah. Who am I to judge?"
Right.
But they are addicted to Al Sharpton and people like him because they have the same spirit, and that spirit is hatred of white Americans.
Yes, and I think it's incredibly powerful, this spirit of bitterness that's in people. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about the fact that slavery was wrong. There's no doubt about the fact that the laws that and the discrimination against black folks in the 50s, from then up to like end of 60s, early 70s. This is a terrible behavior. But at some point, if you just live in bitterness and resentment, then it's going to go on. We're coming to the end. I only have about 2 minutes, but if you can comment quickly.
The thing about that bitterness is that blacks don't understand that not only are they bitter as adult blacks, but they also pass that down to their children.
Yes.
Back 20 years ago, about 40 years ago or so, I tried to warn white America, you need to start speaking up and not giving to Jesse Jackson and others, because if you don't, you're going to bring the worst out of black people. And today we now have black racist young people attacking white Americans, killing them, raping them, and robbing them all across the country because they didn't stand up and speak the truth to Jesse Jackson and others.
Okay, well, listen, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, thank you so much for joining me. A pleasure to speak with you. I'm a big fan of yours. Thank you so much.
Same here. I appreciate you having me on, Dr. Berman. And people can go to my website at bondinfo.org, bondinfo.org. We just started our private school for boys, Bond Leadership Academy for Boys, so I want them to check that out as well.
All right. Thank you so much. Blessings to you.
You too, my friend.